This is Sky Blues Extra.
Good evening, Sky Blue Army. Welcome to another Sky Blues Extra Live. Another defeat for the Sky Blues, sadly. It just needs to be defeats that we're on together, Tom, doesn't it?
Yeah, we must be bad luck, mate.
Yeah, but I absolutely think that is right. Games like tonight aren't really going to define our season, are they? Let's be honest. But when the application isn't there and the performance isn't there, especially that first half, especially conceding those 2 goals, you've got to worry, haven't you?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think, even though we didn't expect to get anything out of this game tonight, I think it's still the nature of how we've lost the game and the goals we've conceded. I think that's the main frustration, isn't it?
Yeah.
That especially that second one just before half time. I mean,
that epitomises all the mistakes we've done all year, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. It was just typical us, really. So Norwich are a great side. They're classy. They outpaced us. There's no doubt about it. But to concede how we did just makes it a little bit more frustrating, doesn't it? Really,
especially how it happened on Saturday as well. Against Cardiff, it was the same kind of lethargic lack of application in that first half. We weren't at the races, and we've done it exactly again tonight. And that is the most frustrating part, because that's something that's now crept into our football, and it hasn't. We haven't shown that for large periods over the last two calendar years, I would say. But now it's strange. It's crept back in.
Seems to take us a bit to get going, doesn't it? To have a real go. Like I think that second half tonight, we did have a little bit of a go. I know we didn't really create.
Norwich sat back though, didn't they?
Yeah, of course, and that's the thing, isn't it? Once teams are 2-0 up, at half time or whatever, it's relatively easy for them, which I think has been similar in the last 2 games. But at least we did change it up a little bit and chuck 2 up top and have a bit of a go.
But too late there, wasn't it? Again.
Yeah, of course. To be honest with you, even 1-0 down in this league is hard enough. 2-0. It's. I think we mentioned it on the pod. Once you're 2-0 down, it's pretty much game over.
Especially against a team that's like a lack of goals, like in our team, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. There's not something you can throw on and think, oh, we'll get a goal here.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Listen, Sky Blue Army, really interested to hear your thoughts this evening. We don't want to dwell too much on this fixture because, like we said, this won't define our season. It's the games against those teams around us which will. And if anything, these next 3 games if we could get anything from them, there would be a bonus. But obviously that hasn't happened tonight. So really interested to hear your thoughts on what we can do going forward. It's really important how we come back from these last two defeats and last 2 performances. How can we move forward and get more positive flow going into our team? We'll go through some comments before we get a couple of guests on. Glenn sums it up pretty much with dreadful. Dave is of the same thinking with Dyer. Michael Large, who was with us on Saturday, thanks for joining us on Saturday. Largy, I think that was inevitable. I mean, you look at the 2 squads and the teams that are put out, it's just chalk and cheese, isn't it?
Absolutely poles apart. I mean, Campbell tonight was just completely different level to anyone in our team, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he was taking the piss really most of the game, to be honest. Like, it didn't even look like he was trying that hard either.
Yeah.
Which is worrying. And
it says a lot when probably their best player, Brendia, hasn't even been in the game.
Yeah, wasn't in the game.
But didn't need to be. Didn't need to be.
But now they've got some great players. Like Max Aarons as well was really good.
Yeah.
Pookie's turn of pace, off the shoulder and stuff, was alarming again. Got in behind I think it was the first goal where just the pace between the difference was just it's the most I've noticed it this season, I think.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, where Hyam just looked so slow compared to them.
But it wasn't just the pace of Pookie, it was the pace of which they attacked. It was 2 passes out and the ball was in halfway in our half and that was it. Just really quick thinking, switched on. That's a switched on team that know what they're doing. They're well coached. They're balanced across the whole pitch. That's another thing I want to bring up. How balanced are we as a team? I don't think we are. But it's just they're just a different gravy, and that's what we want to achieve, obviously, in the next 3-4 seasons. But it's all about surviving this year and getting that stability going forward. And if it takes us shithouse in our way to 1-0 wins over the teams that are around us, it's going to have to do.
That's the thing. I think it's not. I don't think it's going to be pretty for the rest of the season, to be honest.
No, definitely not.
Especially when you play on pitches like that at St Andrews, where we're going to have to try and probably get a lot of our points this season, aren't we? I don't think it's going to be pretty at all. And like you say, we're probably going to have to scrap for our lives. Some of the games we'll have at home, like Derby at home and ones like that, we have to get results there.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's going to be tough, but yeah, like you say, just stay up by whatever means really, and then build again. That's all we can do.
Everybody need to go to the FA and start talking about Sheffield Wednesday getting those 6 points back.
Yeah, exactly. Begging for that to happen. Yeah.
I mean,
it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, because did they get 12 and then it was reduced to 6? So
yeah.
If they had 6 extra points, we'd probably be right just above the bottom 3, wouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's helped us a little bit.
We'll just go through a couple more comments before we get a couple of our guests on who are waiting in the wings. Peter Ward, outclassed by a far better side, but so annoying that we concede the challenge so easily. Every game we press the south to Strasbourg. And it's absolutely true. You know, we make those same individual mistakes all the time.
Yeah.
And before we know it, the game's gone, the game's passed. And we leave ourselves with an uphill battle. And you can't do that in this division. It's just so hard to score goals, never mind when you're 2-0 down.
Exactly.
Gary with very poor goals again. And we'll end on this one before we go to a caller. Steve Budd, first half was absolute garbage. At least the second half improved, which obviously you mentioned in that second half. Right, we'll go to our first caller of the evening. Glenn, good to have you with us on SkyBluesExtra Live. I take it you're not too happy with that performance.
I don't think it was that bad given the personnel we had out. I just think it's very much a reoccurring theme of we're giving teams goals without making them work for it. If you compare it with the game at Carrow Road early in the season, they absolutely battered us and Wilson's pulled off worldy saves and we shithoused a 1-1 draw. Today, I don't think Wilson's made one save. I think the one from the corner with the header, and that's about his lump sum of work today. And Krul's probably made more saves, but none of them are really testing. And it just frustrates me with Robbins. I don't want to get on the guy's case because he is a good manager, but everyone, you read all the stuff about Norwich, is if you press them high, they've got a mistake in them, and they had, and we just play one up top. If you have 2 up top pressing, it works 10 times easier. It's extra numbers, and it showed with the chances we nearly got in. We nearly got in a few times before they scored, but the goals, we've had a warning for the first goal when Pukey's runs clean through and tried to square it to Camwell and he's fell over, and it's just, we just got schooled tonight. It shows you with the first tackle, the Costa challenge. He's not even touched him, and the lad's got him booked. And Brindier's done 2 tackles, I think, exactly the same, and not got booked. And I think I'll lay money if that had been Todd Cantwell who'd got fouled like Walker did, all the Norwich players would have been round the ref screaming for a red card. And we don't do that. And
we're too nice. That's something we brought up on quite a lot, isn't it? I want to go back to your point there about when you said Norwich have a mistake in them, and I think that was apparent in that second half when Victor and Max pretty much run them ragged. I thought in their 2 centre halves, they were pretty much confused the whole time. We just couldn't make ends meet of any situation we got ourselves into. Why do you think Robin seems a little bit tactically inept in that department?
I don't know. He just seems to want to change it. He just seems reluctant to play 2 up top. And I would rather have had a go and got beat 3 or 4 today than what happened was we've lost 2-0, and it's just been a pretty so-so game. And it was just, we never really looked like we were going to score. Really? And he's not getting the best out of Hamer. I think Hamer's not as good. I don't think Jamie Allen is working in the position. I think our shape goes a bit weird on occasions. Matty James seems to be pressing. Hamer seems to be pressing. Jamie Allen. There's no structure, and pattern of play. I don't know why he played Shipley left wing back. I don't think Shipley had that bad a game. I think he got done once, but you've got a natural right back who could play right back, and then you've got Da Costa who could have played left wing back, or you could have gone a flat back four. I don't. The obsession with this 5-3 at the back doesn't seem to work at the moment.
Is it a case that you think we've been found out now?
I'm not convinced it works at Championship level. I don't see loads of teams playing it, and I think I look at the teams that are doing well. Not a lot of them play that system really. From what I look, Watford play back four, Bournemouth play it, but Norwich play a back four, Brentford play a back four. I'm not comparing this to them, but I think a back four gives us that extra man in midfield or that extra man up top, and I just think the extra man at the back doesn't help us at the moment, because I don't think we're good enough in possession. I think Rose was pretty bang average today. I mean, I think he's injured again because he got took off. Faz isn't great in possession. I don't think Ostergaard is, and I don't think Hoyam is. And I seriously, I don't know what you guys think. I think we go to a back four, and I think he picks his best two centre halves, and they're our centre halves for the rest of the season. And I think it's Leo and Faz, because I think at least Faz will organise Leo and probably get the best out of him. I think Hoyam, I know it's a good ball, but I don't think he should be getting done by Pukki. He's not lightning quick.
No, we had this discussion with the goal on our WhatsApp group, and he's just completely the wrong side of anything. He needs to be square to that attacker, and that will stop the threat of that ball going through. But he's just in no man's land, and that's been a few occasions now. Dom Hoyam has been caught napping. But I want to go back to your point with when you said about the two at the back. There's the age-old saying that you play three at the back because you're not good enough as a two. So obviously Robbins has got that in the back of his mind that we might not be good enough to play with two at the back.
Yeah, I'm looking at the teams that have kind of hit a bit of form. Like Derby have run to a back four, and they've got stuck with a pair, and they're solid. And I just think we look. I don't want to say we look like Birmingham do, who look very toothless. Don't look like they're going to score goals, and I don't want to watch that style of football. And I want us to have a go. And yeah, it was a free hit tonight, but it was just. I just think he's doing some weird things. It's like Clive said something on commentary. He said, "Well, he's got to play Walker and Kelly in league games to get them fit." Well, we had an under-23 game on Monday night, so why didn't he give them game time in that? And it's just
he didn't need to rush Kelly back tonight. That's for sure.
No, we could we could do with him on Saturday. I think we missed Sheaf. Yeah. I think I'd rather have played Sheaf tonight because at least he's got that defensive awareness, and you could have stuck Sheaf and told him to stop Camwell. I just wish Jamie Allen, when Camwell had gone by him, we just cleaned him out because he's just an annoying little. But he ran the show, and that was probably the best performance against Cobb I've seen from an opposition player all season. But he didn't really have to try because no one got near him.
Absolutely, wholeheartedly agree with that and many of your points this evening, Glenn. Thank you very much for joining us on SkyBluesExtra. Good to have your input. As always, we'll hope to speak to you again on Saturday after the game versus who got Brentford. I think they were losing tonight. I'm not sure if it ended.
I think
it did end 2-1 to QPR, which is
they lost 2 in a row now, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's a bad result. Yeah, that's a bad result in the grand scheme of the relegation battle, obviously, because of QPR were one of those teams that were in and around, weren't they?
I've got a feeling QPR will probably get themselves out of it. They've got Charlie Austin now, haven't they, up front, and they seem to be kicking on a little bit. So I think they're probably a team that will get out of it. But yeah, Brentford have lost 2 in a row, which is interesting. Whether that's a good... I suppose it has to be a good thing for us, doesn't it, really?
There'll be a lack of confidence there, won't there?
Yeah, they're on a bit of a wobble, which, can only help our case. Fingers crossed.
There's a good point about the back line situation. What would you do going forward? Would you stick with it?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I get Glenn's point about the two, and if you can get a good partnership going, like I kind of like the idea of Ostergaard and Fads as a pair. with Fads' leadership, and I think Ostergaard needs someone next to him like that. And like you said, it's worked well for teams like Derby who've switched to it. But I don't know, I quite like Da Costa out wide and playing down the wings a bit. And I think it has worked quite well for us. I think it was its second half against Forest. We saw what he was capable of in terms of the balls he was putting in. And I think Walker is capable of getting on the end of some of those, especially when chances are few and far between. So my only concern with it is that we'd lose a little bit down the wings. What do you think?
I would play for the back, and I wouldn't be concerned about the wing situation. I'd still let the two lads go forward. What I would do is have an extra man in the middle of the park, so if there is any danger, they can help negate that by covering those wide areas if need be. But I to play out from the back. Our players aren't good enough to do that. It's just part and parcel of the situation we're in. We're a League One side, effectively playing in a much higher level now. So we've got to play to our strengths, and if that is just kicking the ball up the field and getting the second balls and the knockdowns, then so be it. This is a season of transition. We need to stay in this division, no matter what it takes, effectively.
Exactly,
to do that. We'll go through some more comments before we get Josh onto the show. Jumbo, didn't expect anything tonight, pretty much like the rest of us, Jumbo, but the lack of fight does look worrying. Yep, agree with that one. Shortland Horn are sponsors of the Sky Blues Extra Live and Sky Blues Extra podcast. Good to have them along this evening. They have 5 or 6 Premiership quality players. Didn't expect the result tonight, but the goals are really disappointing because they're mistakes again. Yeah, I mean, what was that, 42 or 44 goals now we've conceded? I put good money on them, at least half of those being down to individual mistakes, which isn't good enough.
Far too many individual mistakes. That's what I mean. I wouldn't mind if we got undone by a really piece of quality or a great goal, but when it's like that's like I said, that second one especially, it's just so frustrating.
Yeah. Andy Gray, not the Andy Gray, as far as I know, unless he's tuning in from Qatar, but shithousing is exactly what we need to do, chaps. Why is someone not giving Cantwell a reducer? Yeah, just like Glenn said there. Should have nailed him early doors. It's the age-old saying, isn't it? The first one's free, effectively. Make sure he knows he's in a match, and we just don't do that. We don't have that nasty streak to us, do we?
No, we don't at all. No, far too nice. We need to be much more nasty against teams like that and against players like him.
I know it's League 2 level when we had Doyle there, but we were a nasty side.
We've not had anyone in the team like that, have we, since, really?
No. Yeah, looking back at that League 2 season, we started really badly, obviously, but then we got that nasty streak about us, and we never let teams get into matches, and I think that's what we need to bring back into this team, definitely. Will Green, when is Robbins going to start with 2 up top? Have we won a game with 1 up top? Much better second half. And we had 2 up top. Yeah, it's the age old, but it's too late. Too late to come back into matches.
Would you start with that on Saturday, Dean?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Do you think he will?
It's difficult against this free-flowing Brentford side. I think they're the highest scorers in the division. So he'll have to keep it tight. But, the last 2 results at Brentford shows they can be got at.
Yeah.
You can get results against them. QPR, for me, are probably one of the worst sides in this division. Okay, they've got Charlie Austin now. And Ilya Sher is playing really well at the moment. But, they've scored 2 goals against them tonight and ground out a victory. So,
and Barnsley as well,
Barnsley as well, yeah. I mean, Barnsley a little bit
They're
different.
A decent side.
I think we're going through the same sort of period as Barnsley. Last season, towards the middle of the season, they struggled, and then they found some form towards the end,
and they just scraped
survival. And
don't get me wrong at all. I'd follow their model completely. If we just scrape survival, and then they've built really well, haven't they? Yeah. That's what I want to see us do, is become that sort of mid-table team, strong team, which I think we can if we stay up. I really do.
Absolutely. And just one more comment before we go on to our next call. Ian says he expects to be the bottom 3 after this run of games. Anything else is a bonus. I think that's something we brought up on the podcast as well, although I wasn't on it this week, but listening back, the guys were talking about that. It's those 15 games after, and we said it, games like tonight aren't going to define the season, but the performances will effectively, because
Yeah.
good performance brings confidence and attacking
I think
attacking threat.
not to look too much into who other teams are playing, although I tend to do that a lot now. The only thing that is going our way is that a lot of the teams have got tough fixtures, or they're playing each other. So you've got Birmingham playing Sheffield Wednesday, so one of them's going to drop points, or both of them are going to, or they'll get a point each, kind of thing. And I think Rotherham go away to Norwich, so I really wouldn't expect them to get anything there, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's the other thing, is that I don't think the teams are going to be winning every game around us. So hopefully we can start that bottom three before that run of nicer games.
Fingers crossed. It just takes the pressure off a little bit, doesn't it? In that fashion. So, right, let's get our next caller in. Josh is with us again this evening. Josh, good to have you with us. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on this evening?
Well, I think we've all felt that really it was a reality of just being completely outgunned tonight, really, more than anything else. That they would bring on Tetty at the end. They had really never, they'd never really got into
£25 million Alex Tetty you're talking about.
Exactly. I mean, it's just. I mean, to be honest, tonight sort of felt like a nightmare where, had we suddenly been thrust into the Premiership, this would have been our reality, really, because Norwich to me looked like a Premiership team tonight, and so had we, by some miracle gone up the season, somehow end up in the Premiership, tonight's game would have given us a sign of how depleted and how out-resourced we were. So I mean, I think the result itself, although it's obviously disappointing, I think the bigger picture, and I think you guys have already mentioned it, is how do we solve our formation issue and our problems at both ends of the boxes, really. I saw a really good tweet this week, which was saying, the game is won in both boxes, and it's all very well us having a fantastic midfield, but if we can't defend properly,
that's a really good point.
Score, then that's going to be our downfall. And there were two statistics. One was that someone said, we've got, so the commentator tonight on Sky said we had the third worst defence in the league, so obviously that's not great. But I think we've only scored in 5 out of the last 13 games. So those two statistics really tell us the problem we've got. In terms of the formation, I think it's really difficult, because I think the sort of brief history of the one up front is, I think Robins originally started, from sort of since Tyler Walker got injured, was really playing it out of necessity, because we were so depleted with our strikers up front that had we played 2 and one of them got injured, we would have really had no option going into any other games. I think for me it's about horses for courses, because I think I can kind of see the logic in playing it against Norwich, Brentford and Swansea, because these teams are so sort of are so wealthy and so can outgun us by so much that it is about, that's the sort of definition of trying to shithouse a win, is trying to just play one up front and somehow close the door and hope that we get a lucky break. But the problem for me is the style of football that goes with it, because a lot of people were complaining about that mistake, Fadzin's mistake for the second goal, but that was coming tonight. There were loads of times when we were playing slightly suicidal football out of the defence, and asking for a good Norwich side who are going to pick up on these sort of mistakes and going to pick up on stray passes to get goals from it. So my problem really is that if you're going to play one up front, and I don't know, I imagine he did that tonight because it was against Norwich. Then you've got to play the football that goes with it. Tyler Walker, I think, is our best striker, but you had to have Big Vic up there to basically long ball it, hope he holds it up, and give us a chance to build an attack. Whereas tonight, Tyler Walker, not only is he coming out from an injury, so you don't really want him running himself ragged, but he was just completely isolated, and he had no sort of say in the match, because he's not built for one up front. He's got a bit of quick energy about him. He's got good movement. He needs someone there with him. So to me, it's about the formation mixing with the style of football you want to play. And I just don't think Robbins, although we love him, has got that right over the past few matches.
There's a comment here. Well, actually, there's been a few comments this evening on this basis. But would you say Robin's job is on the line?
Oh God, no. I mean, going to Robin's job on the line. I think you can go. He is the absolute right man for the football club at this moment. I don't want to go into the sort of the external things around the club, because God knows that's what none of us really want to be talking about. But at the moment, in the position we are with no stadium, with not particularly attractive owners, Robbins is absolutely the right man to stick with the club. And unfortunately, we are limited. We're a fragile club. We're not. I don't want to be too negative. We're not necessarily an attractive club to want to manage at this particular moment. And Robbins has worked miracles with us and has done brilliant things and knows the club inside out and knows our problems and knows how to hopefully counteract them. But I think tonight he just got it slightly wrong.
Going forward, then, how would you change the situation? Would you change the formation completely?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's controversial because I know everyone's gunning for the two up front, and I do get that. For me, it's about the teams we're playing, and I think with Norwich, Brentford, and it's all well and good saying, let's just absolutely go for it, but 2 4-0 losses in the next game, are mentally damaging for the players, and God knows we don't want confidence being depleted going into a crucial March period. For me, I would try and shut up shop. I'd play the same formation, but I'd play Big Vic up top, and I would, like I said, just grit our teeth, take our medicine, and just absolutely try and shithouse it against Brentford and Swansea, and hope that somehow, we play long ball football, hope Big Vic keeps it up. I'm not saying Big Vic is our best striker. I do think Tyler Walker's our best striker. But I think, if we're going to play that formation and sort of try and just stop the good quality of the opposition teams who are going to be going for the Premiership next season, then we need to play the players appropriate for that formation.
Yeah, I was about to say, you could see Walker was a little bit out of his depth tonight as that sort of lone figure up there.
Yeah.
Although there wasn't obviously many balls going towards that. And you saw glimpses in that second half of Victor doing a lot of work, and he ground his way into some positions. He got the ball off the opposition a couple of times. So maybe you're right on that occasion that he could be the guy up there to lead the line if we do play the one.
But I think, I absolutely agree. And like I said, I get that.
Will agrees with that.
Yeah, I think he's slightly, people complain that he's slow and stuff like that. But for the formation, if you're going to play that formation, that is the player you need. And to me, all the talk about the 2 up front, 1 up front, it's not as important as matching the style of football to the system and not being, in a halfway house, basically, of having, the wrong players for the wrong system. That's not going to reap any benefits. In terms of the defence, I think again we're pretty limited. I get the 4 at the back, but I really like Da Costa going forward as an attacking option, as an out ball. I just think that's such a great weapon to have. But maybe that's something we need to sacrifice to have the 4 at the back. I don't know, because I wouldn't be comfortable with both wing backs still bombing forward with just Rose or whoever we have, McFadzean and Ostergaard at the back. I think we'd just be sitting ducks then, and I think we would get thumped. And we have to face the fact, although as tough as it is, we're going to be playing teams in the next few matches who are just going to be way above our level in terms of resources, basically. So
absolutely.
Frustrating and very disappointing, but it is where we are where we are, and we've just got to grit our teeth through the next matches. And I think, Tom, you said it. It's likely we're going to go into the relegation zone over the next few matches. That's not the next 2 games are not going to be the ones that decide our season. It's that March run in. It's games. Looking back, I said at the time, losing to Nottingham Forest, that what a bad result that was.
And not beating Birmingham as well, to be honest.
Yes.
I think not beating Birmingham is even that's the thing for me. Those extra 2 points against them would have made a massive difference at this stage.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Birmingham, I mean, again, I know that the history of that was that we were depleted up front, but Birmingham was a game where we played one up front.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of game when you're like, that was crying out for some attacking some attacking nous to gamble, really. So so it's about notifying, realizing the team you're playing, a style of football that will work against them, and then the right type of players that will work in that system. So it's about that's how you build it, I think, with Robbins. And I just think he got it wrong tonight. But to be honest, I feel even if we go down, and I think some people will be angry about this, I still think he's the right man for the club because of the sort of the external situation we're in at the moment. People tend to forget this, and we all forget it, I think. But we are a team without a football stadium. We have managed to get into the Championship without a football stadium. That's an incredible achievement, and really, it's a miracle we are where we are. So until all those things are sorted, we're lucky to have a manager with the quality of
I agree.
Robbins. Yeah.
I think.
Go on, Molly.
I was just going to say, I think, I mean, obviously there was that comment that came up, but I just think just my personal opinion, to be questioning Robbins at this stage, I think is ridiculous.
That's
my personal opinion. Mad. I just think,
it's the minority, isn't it, rather than the majority.
Yeah, of course. But it just annoys me because people start saying it, and it's like, even to get promoted out of League One was a massive achievement. A huge achievement to win League One, absolutely. Massive achievement. The size of the clubs in that league, even, and then to have 31 points in the Championship with the injuries we've had and the situation we're in. Is another massive achievement. Whatever happens this season, we've done really, really well. I don't think you compare us to like a Wickham, where they're going to go down by quite a way, probably. Mm-hmm. If we go down, it won't be by very much, and it'd be pretty cruel actually if we did. So I think whatever happens, he's achieved a huge amount. And you're right, Josh. He would obviously deserve to stay on if he wanted to, and help us bounce back. But I don't think it's going to come to that. So.
No.
I mean, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, no, I completely agree with that. And again, worth noting again, what is it? We have the second lowest resources in the league.
Yeah.
We have no. It's just, to be even where we are at the moment is a success. We'd all take 20th. I know we've got a few games in hand, and if we lose to Brentford come 3:00 on Saturday, we'll have 2 games in hand. So the table won't look pretty at all. But we'd all absolutely snap our hands off snap anybody's hands off for 20th position. Yeah. So we can't complain. I think it's, on a side note, I think it's what's really odd about this season is looking back. I'm not sure how well you guys remember the Championship when we were there under AD Boothroyd and Chris Coleman, but it seems really odd because looking back at those seasons, I always felt like we were going on terrible runs and never winning away and just scrapping like 1-0, the odd 1-0 win away from at home. And yet those seasons we always sort of managed to finish sort of 17th, 16th. Yet this season I've sort of felt, and yet what's weird about this season is I felt much more positive about the team, the style of football we played. And I've never felt like we've gone on really terrible barren runs up to now, and yet we're still, we're being made to punish for it. So
the Championship is a different beast now to what it was. Especially during the Boothroyd times. There's probably 10 standout teams in the division. Now there's 16, 17, 18 teams that could all make playoffs. And obviously some of them will make automatics, but the quality is so much better now than when we were last in it. So I think that's apparent when you come up against the likes of Norwich.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a debate for another time, I suppose. And I think Jim Brown brought it up, but it did make me question tonight the parachute payment thing, because I just thought this is just so this is just men against boys, and not through our fault, really, just a consequence of having the handy money passed on to you. So, yeah. But, look, let's get behind the boys. Let's support them. Like I said, they've done so well to get to the position we are in this season. We've still got that crucial March run in. That's going to be squeaky bum time, crunch time, and hopefully we can grab loads of wins out of it and stay up. My only worry really about the next 2 games, which is why I'm keen to set up shop, is just close them down and don't let them score. Is confidence going to be so depleted by that point that the March run in is going to be too tough for them? I'm hoping Robins will have the man management skills to make them aware that that's not the case. But it's going to be tricky.
Josh, lovely to have your contribution. Thank you once again.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Josh, mate.
Cheers, Josh. Really good points Josh made there, Wardy. Especially with the Mark Robbins situation, I think it's an absolute travesty. People even questioning his position at the club.
Yeah, 100%. I think, people just sometimes forget where we are as a club, I think because obviously we've had, we used to be a Premier League team and we were every year, and we are a big club, but we've sunk right back down to the bottom and we're on the way back up still. So we've got to, accept the size we are now. We've been reborn as a club kind of thing, really. I think Josh is right. I don't think there's anyone else really who would possibly want the job or could do it any better than Mark Robbins, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I think we've got to quash any of those comments as soon as we can, really.
Absolutely. And I'm wary Joey's been waiting in the wings to come on to SkyBluesExtra. Very vocal tonight, Joey, on Twitter. Did you watch the second half?
No, first half, horrible to watch. Really, really tough. It's the first time this season where I've sort of thought, maybe we are in a bit of trouble here. Thankfully, though, the second half was a lot better. And I think they need to keep their heads held up for that second half. I know Norwich had nothing to play for and it was comfortable for them, but I was worried at half time that this was going to be 3, 4, 5 by that second half. But we set up shop, and I think Robbins can learn a lot of lessons from that second half in terms of the team that was out there, and even things like the pitch. I think, did he know it was going to be that bad when we turned up today? So going into Saturday's game, you've got to actually, can we afford to play it around the back? Do we need to go to up top, pile the ball forward? I thought Max did a great shift when he came on, and we looked so much better with a 2. So much better up there. Because that first half, just throwing the ball up to Walker's pointless. And as much as the mistake was terrible before half time, I have a little bit of sympathy for the defenders, because actually you're there with the ball and you're thinking, I pump this ball forward and what's Walker going to do on his own? So actually, I think I could sort of see what they were doing there. And that's where I think Robbins has to step in 10 minutes into that game and say, look, lads, you can't pass on this pitch. We're going to have to go long. Get rid of it if you're under any pressure. And we didn't. And at 2-0, the game's over. So
it's obviously in the back of their mind, the defence, isn't it? When they've been told, obviously the game plan is keep the ball, pass the ball out, find the space, find the gaps. But that pitch, I mean, are Wasps playing on it as well now? I don't know. You just can't play football on that type of pitch.
Yeah, unless you are the quality of Norwich. Because to be fair, they did pass it around really well, but we're not at that level. So you have to sort of adapt. And it reminded me a little bit like the Rotherham game last season, where you could see within sort of 5 or 10 minutes that this wasn't going to work, but he was too slow to adapt it. And if there's any criticism of Robbins, and who am I to criticise him? But it's not adapting to games, and we saw this in League 2. We saw it in League 1 at times, where actually he was too slow to adapt. His substitutions were poor. And I just hope he learns from that tonight, because actually the second half, you could see that actually by having a big lump like Max up front or Vic, is that actually you have an outlet. If McFadzean or Rose don't want to pass it around the back, you can fire it long, and it causes pressure for the opposition. But that's Robbins has always been like that, sadly. And I think that's why actually, as a manager, he wouldn't be appealing to other clubs, because in game, I don't think he's as strong as what he is in terms of his overall
man management.
I think what Robbins is amazing at is his overall structure of the club, how he set it up, the way he brings players in. That's second to none, and he fits this club so perfectly. But if he was to go to a team with better players, tactically, I don't think he would be as good as what he is here. So I think the idea of him being snatched from somebody or leaving or anything like that it's not going to happen, and we shouldn't hope for it. But I just hope he learns those lessons from tonight.
I've got a couple of talking points I wanted to go through with Wardy, but while you're here, we'll get your involvement too. Gus Hamer. Now, I would say for the past 5-6 games, he's been missing. I mean, that's fair to say. Do you think he's been? Do you think he's been poor?
I think he has. I think he's probably tired. I mean, the amount of minutes he's played, and not only the minutes he's played, but the expectation he's got upon him. That must be so draining.
Yeah. I think he's got a lot on his shoulders. I think we especially in the first half of the season, we were so reliant on him. I think a slight bit of pressure's been taken off with James in there and people like that. But yeah, so reliant on him, and like you say, it's probably just taking its toll on him a little bit. He's still only a young lad, isn't he?
That string of performances in the middle part of the season were superb, and he built a reputation, and that's a good thing. Obviously, it helped us to achieve some results. But he's I kind of feel like he's living off those past performances and not taking it a step forward.
Yeah, well, I think it's a bit similar with O'Hare. Both of them are clearly our best players. It's a little bit like watching kids football, and you see the one good player who tries to do everything, and I feel like that's the same with Gus and O'Hare, is that they're almost not confident with passing the ball to other players, so they try their hardest to do it all themselves. And I think sometimes you can be the best player in the world, but if you're trying to do it all yourself, it's not going to happen. And we've seen that with some of the passes.
They're both players that if they were in a quality team like Norwich, they'd be even better players individually. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those. I think I did actually think that tonight watching Hamer. I think he just struggles a bit in our team.
Sorry, go ahead, go on.
I was just going to say as well, so I think some of his passing has been quite poor. He gave it away quite a lot on Saturday. It wasn't as bad today, but he didn't have the ball as much, so it's hard to comment on it. But yeah.
You mentioned O'Hare, and Sky is asking, is it time to give them a rest on Saturday? It kind of feels like it's not a nothing game anymore with the run that Brentford are on.
I wouldn't drop O'Hare, because I think even tonight he was still, I wouldn't say effective, because he's not creating the chance necessarily, but he's our only outlet going forward. He's the only one driving with it. However, with Gus Hamer, I'd possibly drop him. I think we've got other options that can come in for that game, and maybe off the bench he'd be quite effective just to spruce it up a bit. I think it probably is worth resting him Saturday, but O'Hare, I think if you drop him out, there's just no other outlet up there to create or anything. So possibly, but then again, the formation change, I think you have to go with two up top on Saturday. You look at the past results. I think the Wednesday game where we won 2-0, we had two up top, Vic and Max possibly. The Rotherham game with two up top. So I think two of our better performances had the two up there. So, he needs to learn from that, I think.
It's not all doom and gloom. Obviously, there was a couple of positives from this evening. Obviously, Walker back in amongst the fold of the starting 11, but great to see Kelly back as well. I mean, that's going to give the whole club a lift, isn't it, to see the skipper back?
Well, that's the thing. You've got Kelly back now. Sheep's not far off.
Yeah,
James is in there. So in terms of talking about Hamer, we've got options to drop some of them, and he can play around with it a little bit more. I think Kelly, the good thing about Kelly is he will get in the face of the referee. He'll drag the players up, and that is certainly the first half what we were missing today. They looked just shell-shocked after about 15 minutes, and it almost needed somebody in there to just grab them and say, look, we can do something here. And talking about the referee as well, I mean, Norwich tonight was so frustrating because every touch to their man, they were down, and you could hear, certainly on the Sky, you could hear the way the manager, the players were shouting for every single challenge. Whereas when we were getting fouled, when O'Hare was getting, you couldn't hear a thing other than ADV Vash. And I think you need somebody in there just to get involved. Yeah, get involved, because the amount of times we need to be streetwise. But this is something that even in League Two, in League One, we weren't street. I remember Robin saying this in League Two. It's something that we just haven't learnt. We've got a very youthful squad and players that are too nice, sadly. But we need to learn these lessons going into that final stage of the season. If we want to stay up, it's got to be dirty. It's got to be the dark arts that Oggy says. But I don't know if we're capable of that.
Joey, love to have your thoughts. Sorry it took you so long to get on. But, it's great to have your input as usual. Let's make sure it's not the last time, mate, this season.
Cheers, Joey, mate.
Cheers, Joey. We'll start wrapping things up. Wardy, what do you need to see then on Saturday against Brentford to get a positive result for the Sky Blues?
Yes, it's an interesting one. I think, given the fact they've had a couple of dodgy results, I think we've got to approach the game slightly differently. I think we can go into it a bit more positively than we might have done before. I'm leaning towards what Joey's saying about playing two up front, and Josh's point about the game's been won and lost in the two boxes. I think possibly Biamu and Walker could be an interesting combination.
Sure,
they were pretty good against Rotherham, so possibly that's how I'd start. I'd probably stick with the three at the back, to be honest with you. I still think we need a bit of that width, and two strikers getting on the end of the Da Costa balls can only be a good thing. So yeah, I think we need to approach it positively. It's probably still going to be a tough game. We need to keep Ivan. We need to keep Ivan Toney quiet as well, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's absolutely on fire at the moment. He scored again this evening. You keep him quiet. That takes
scores against us a lot.
Yeah, it takes away one of their attacking threats, but they've got attacking threats all over the pitch. So we do need to be wary. But I'm looking at the table here. A win and some of the other results going our way on Saturday, and we could be back in 17th position. It's just absolute nuts this season.
Yeah.
It's going to be ups and downs, peaks and troughs the whole way through. Yeah. So let's just hold on tight. And
what we'll say as well is, I think it's a tough run of games we're on, but I'd rather have them now in February than in March, because if we do come out of this run, and we keep saying the next three actually, because we've got Blackburn and Middlesbrough after. I mean, they're not easy either, really.
Yeah, Blackburn lost again tonight to Barnet.
But I think it's 5 pretty tough games. But if we came out of that and we were 1 point outside or level, whatever, and then we go into that run, then it's kind of in our hands then. Because if we don't beat the likes of Derby at home, Wickham at home, then we don't deserve to stay up anyway.
Absolutely.
So, it's kind of good that we have these games now, get them out of the way, and then it's completely in our hands whether we stay in this division or not.
Absolutely. A very interesting end to the season is in store for the Sky Blues, and we'll be along for the ride the whole way through it with a Sky Blues Extra live after each match. Also, don't forget our podcast is released on a Monday. This week's episode is out now wherever you get your podcasts. That's available, and also a really nice listen with the little Maltese Messi, Michael Misford. He spoke to us a couple of weeks ago. Really, really nice episode with him. So make sure you check that out. Wardy, thanks very much for joining me this evening. We'll be back Saturday after. Is it lunchtime kickoff, Brentford?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yep. So it'll be an earlier Sky Blues Extra live. You can watch us along with Jeff and the boys in the studio. You can have either screen on. Bit of soccer Saturday is all day. So please join us for that. Stay safe and play up Sky Blues.